Well, we are going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is the Wednesday, August 19th DRC meeting. And before we get started, just read a brief statement about the meeting. Of course, good afternoon and welcome to the DRC meeting of Wednesday, August 19th. As a result of the COVID-19 outbreak and resulting social distancing and prohibitions on large group meetings, also out of an abundance of caution, we are having this meeting electronically through online video communications. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, through Executive Order 2069, allowed for online government meetings. Participants do not need to be physically present as long as sunshine requirements are met. Members of the Development Review Committee and other city staff are present via online video through smartphone, tablet, or computer. Applicants were also invited for the online discussion. Residents and stakeholders can watch the meeting on YouTube via a link provided on the city website shortly after the meeting. Today's agenda was posted on the city's website at 9 a.m. Monday, August 13th. Public comment was invited by email or phone call from 9 a.m. Monday until noon today. And prior to each agenda item, I will indicate any public comment received from whom, and will also confirm that all members of the DRC received the comments ahead of the meeting. Comments are provided to DRC meetings and will be added to the record for this meeting, although they will not be read into the record in the interest of time. This meeting is being recorded. And with that being said, we will go ahead and open the meeting up. The first item on today's business is a call to order. So if we could introduce ourselves, starting with whoever wants to start.
Kim Tracy, Public Works Director.
Will Watts, Fire Chief.
And Dan Mathis with the Community Development Department. The first item on the agenda today is the meeting minutes from June 17th DRC meeting. Is there any changes or comments to the meeting minutes? Hearing none, I'll look forward for a motion to approve as written.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is our public period. We did not receive any public comment from anyone that is not associated with one of the cases. So we'll go ahead and close that and move on to our first decision item, which is petition number 2020-03 BZA. It's for 500 North Maitland Avenue. I see the applicants are connecting. Make sure, Mr. Kalmanson, have you made it into the meeting?
He's on mute.
He is.
Hi, Dave Miller's here. Can you hear me?
I can. And Barry, are you there?
It looks like he's on mute up on the screen. There, he's not off.
Yeah, I tried to unmute him.
Okay.
How come my picture's not showing up?
You have your video off.
No, I don't. How do I turn that on?
I will turn it on for you.
So you have it turned off, not me.
No, it's not. It's not letting me get to your video here. Let's see.
And David's video is not here either.
I didn't know if you guys really wanted to see me.
As long as you're clothed. All right, now we see Barry.
David,
Okay.
All right, there we go.
now we're missing Barrett.
Barrett is here, but he's not on camera.
And Jacqueline.
She's not on camera either. She's hidden.
Oh, come on, guys.
Jacqueline's the best dressed person in the city. She needs to be on camera.
Well, she's not today, unfortunately. Not that she's not well dressed today. She's not on camera today. So, Barry, David, did you guys get a copy of the DRC recommendation report?
We sure did. And we thought it was very interesting after we spent, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes on the phone with you to write the answers. And then your staff came back and said we didn't meet the criteria based on what you told us to write.
Well, what I was trying to give you some guidance on is some of the criteria that needs to be met to make this work. Variances in themselves are very difficult to prove that you meet all 8 criteria, which is why staff usually tries to tries to you get applicants to only use that in a last case scenario because it really is difficult to prove all those 8 criteria. And the way the code reads is that if you don't meet all 8, then the staff recommends denial on the.
Your staff has denied or decided that 3 of the 8 that you told us what to write are not good.
Well, I gave you some suggestions on some language that that would have it would have assisted in a way, but I in no way guaranteed you that any suggestions I had would guarantee an approval.
I didn't say you guaranteed it, but you certainly made some strong suggestions and we followed it and here we are. So can we go through the 3 that you're concerned about or your staff or whoever it is concerned about?
I wasn't sure also if 7 and 8, they don't really have a statement whether the criteria has been met or not. So I wasn't sure if those were also not met or if those were met.
So 7 and 8 are findings that the Board of Zoning Adjustment makes. Staff just writes a statement and then Board of Zoning Adjustment makes that finding.
Okay.
So before we get started on well, actually, no, go ahead and applicants, go ahead and present any information you want before we talk about the public comment received.
Well, tell us what the public comment is received first, and then we can understand how to address that.
Well, we have received public comment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 people have sent in public comment. Brittany Grouse from 632 Gamewell Avenue, Laura Hardy from 820 Gamewell Avenue, Margie and Joe Forshey from 840 Gamewell Avenue, Steve Barkus from 630 Gamewell Avenue, and Randy Magira from 600A Robinson Drive. Let me ask the other members of DRC, did you both receive these comments before the meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so just confirming that everybody did receive a copy of them. And Barry, David, we can send those to you. Some of those just came in within the last 30, 45 minutes. So it's not.
Please email them to us.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll forward you those emails. Basically, all but one were very brief in stating opposition to putting a fence along Gamewell Avenue. There was one that came in that was an actual Word document that I personally had not had time to look at yet.
I find this extremely interesting because in the past when we've talked about doing this, they've asked for a fence to stop people from going through there. Neighborhood, not maybe those specific people, but others in that neighborhood have specifically requested that a wall or fence be built there. And now they're saying the opposite to you tonight or today. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
That's interesting. The people, I wonder, I think Laura Hardy specifically wanted a wall or fence or something back there. And now she's got her troops to say they don't want it. Correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I think she was the one that wanted to park back there also.
She's probably watching this, wondering how we remember that she once upon a time said one thing and now she's changed her tune. Disingenuous at best.
Well, go ahead and I'm gonna forward these emails to you while you're speaking, just so you'll have them.
Well, the thing about safety and security, this is going to be number 2. I guess the police officer, chief or officer, whoever that is, isn't on here. We've had recent crimes. We had cars broken into in broad daylight. I've got tenants that are concerned. We had somebody looked out the window, as I've told you before, and watched somebody breaking into cars. They called the police. The guy ran away with people's phones and computers, was heading back into that neighborhood. The police arrested him with laptops and phones under his shirt. We have homeless people walking back and forth. I don't know where they're coming and going through this property on a routine basis, because maybe they go to the train station, maybe they don't. I don't know where they go. But you have that. We had a homeless person camped out in the stairwell of my office building over a weekend, and he was found in there, and the police arrested him and took him to 33rd Street. and this goes on not every day, but weekly or monthly, we have some kind of problem. And it was suggested by the police that we needed a fence back there that they could see through in order to ameliorate some of this. The next door neighbor that lives next to the property was excited about it. So he doesn't want these people walking back and forth through here either. And I don't want them walking around here upsetting my tenants. So one way or another, it's clearly a safety and security issue. You can look at the police reports and see all the problems that we've had. And that takes care of number 2.
It doesn't seem that different also from what was developed over there at Francesco's, you know, where they've got fencing between the residential properties and neighborhoods there and the road that runs, you know, right behind the old Dodge store, you know, back in that area. And we also noted the Jewish Community Center, kind of safety and concern. So those seem like good, reasonable developments that have been done that we're just trying to kind of mimic that also.
And that'll go for number 5 and 6, in harmony with the general purpose intent of this zoning code. I mean, right in there, you say that it could be 30 feet in. I mean, how reasonable is that for a response of any sensible person that's ever looked at a set of plans or a tax map? You can't stick a fence in the middle of a parking lot where you can't get through drive aisles. I can't imagine our fire chief would approve of having drive aisles blocked with a chain link fence across the asphalt. Not that we could live that way anyway, but I mean, or a city engineer would ever think for one moment, or a city planner or a city anybody, that that makes any sense whatsoever. So
All throughout the city, it seems like we've got these walls and fences out along major roads, Sandspur Road, Parade-Co. I mean, we've got walls all along residential neighborhoods that separate those from the roadway, and this would be a very similar type condition as any of those.
many places throughout the city, and probably in this same zoning code or future zoning code of what it will be.
Okay.
Is this a wall or a fence?
The police,
A chain link fence, because I thought it was a chain link fence, not a wall.
the police want to be able to see through it, is what they
Okay.
believe. And they believe that this is a good idea, but you should be able to see through it as opposed to something solid. If you want, I'll go put a wood cheaper fence out there, save a lot of money, and put that out there. It would do the same thing for me. But the police want to be able to see through this. This fence probably.
I was just wondering because you were saying wall like on Sandspur and other places. You were comparing it to a wall, so I just wanted to make
We have
sure
fencing out along.
I didn't misunderstand what was being.
Like Sedalia Elementary School has fencing all along it. There's fencing along the some of the other properties in between the brick walls as well.
I mean, your response in this report is we can put a 30-inch fence in. A tall guy can jump right over that. And would. It doesn't even have to be a tall guy to jump a 30-inch fence. So, I mean, the whole thing, it's a safety and security issue that, interestingly, probably some of the same people that wrote to you actually wanted this not very long ago and requested it, as opposed to now they're opposing it. And you've got this condition all over this community and all over this city. And how is this one any different other than your staff has decided that since the property has 3 fronts, as they say, there's 3 fronts, when I say there's a side, a front, and a back. And that's the only reason we're discussing this. If they decided that that was a back instead of a front, we could put this up as a matter of right. So it's just silly that we're having to go through this. And I think what you're saying is I can put a 30-inch fence up there tomorrow without going through any of this, but not sure that that would accomplish anything.
Correct. And that's what the report looks at, is that you could put a 30-inch fence and some hedges and things like that and not go through any of this. But the code considers those all front yards. At least the code as it's currently written today considers those all as front yards. And that's kind of why we're here today.
I got a tape measure out. The top of my desk is 30 inches. Anybody who's a criminal carrying a computer or breaking in a car can jump right over that. I mean, if you wanted to compromise at 5 feet or whatever standard sizes are out there, I'm willing to do it. But 30 inches doesn't get you anywhere when some of these criminals come through here all the time. And some of them probably even come out of that neighborhood back there, maybe from the train station. I don't know where they come from.
Okay. Anything else?
Any questions by the fire department or the public works department? I mean, it's just silliness that the entire city, these are all over the place. You can go up and down road after road after road on properties that are on more than one street, and you've got them all over. And for some reason, they're not wanting it here other than a 30-inch fence, which doesn't do us a whole lot of good.
For those all planned developments, how the neighborhoods were developed and.
Of course not. There's one by Vance's house that they just recently did it over there and put it on multiple sides where they have roads on 3 sides. They did the exact same thing. The city gave them a permit for it. And there's multiple places throughout the city that they're doing this because they don't consider them all front yards. For some reason, when you have a house, the back of it is the back and the front is the front. This, you're wanting to say I've got 3 front yards.
We'd have to look at each of those examples to see. I can't answer to them not at all now. I know the JCC is a PD and they had specific Homeland Security grants for the fence from security threats, but
I've got a grant from myself.
I mean, you bring up a good point, and those are good arguments for the Board of Zoning adjustment. But with variances, staff is tied to the literal interpretation of the ordinance, which is why variances are so tough, and staff discourages having to go through the variance process. As our current code is written, considering those three sides as all being fronts. So I completely understand the frustration, and I understand that it doesn't seem right, but at this point, staff is tied to the literal interpretation of the ordinance on a variance.
I thought, Dan, you had mentioned.
However, your staff is coming up with results that say the applicant can modify the height of the fence, move the fence out of the required setback. How can we move it out of the required setback that you're deeming a front yard and put it in the middle of a parking lot and cut off a parking lot from vehicle access, fire truck access? How does that make any sense from any logical person that knows anything about planning, engineering, or design to write such a thing on a piece of paper?
All that's saying is that a fence can be put on that property, whether it's logical. No, you're right. It's not in the middle of a parking lot, but that's saying that a fence could be put on that, or a smaller fence within the setback with a combination of hedges or something that could grow taller than 30 inches.
Well, this fence, as soon as I ever come back to get the PD done out here, I'm gonna probably tear this fence down anyway and build whatever the PD requires. I mean, it's probably only gonna be here for a matter of years and come down.
Dan, I thought you had mentioned that through legal counsel, if all of these criteria are not met, then legal counsel recommends to the Board of Zoning Adjustment denial.
There will be legal counsel at the BZA meeting, and they do recommend to BZA, but now BZA can make alternate findings. The council will be there to recommend or caution them that if they do overturn it or have a different recommendation or decision based on the recommendation, that they have to have competent substantial evidence or be able to support why they went against staff's interpretation or staff's recommendation. And it's happened in the past. It will likely happen in the future, but it's.
Why would you ever even have a Board of Zoning Adjustment, though, if legal counsel is there to tell them to deny it if staff isn't in agreement with it, or if it doesn't? I mean, I thought the whole reason for it was it doesn't conform exactly to the code, and that's why there's the Board of Zoning Adjustment. There's those special exceptions you can come in and plead your case. You know, it just seems odd that we can't get some staff support on these items from the common sense of this is not a front yard. We will never be putting a drive out here per the neighbor's request, per common sense. And it seems appropriate to treat this like a backyard, just like we wouldn't go in and tear down walls along Sandspur Road and start driving into people's homes off of Sandspur Road. You drive into the neighborhood and you would approach those homes from the front of the house. You know, it just.
And those are good arguments and justifications to make to the Board of Adjustment. The staff has to look at the literal interpretation of the ordinance.
Well, let me ask you another one. What you think, you're saying that this report is a literal interpretation. If you look at the response to number 6, it says the visual barrier that will not be harmonious with the residential neighborhood in which it is proposed. How is that the literal statute or rule? That is somebody's subjective opinion. And that's your staff's subjective opinion. And number 6, a visual barrier. When you told me I could build a 30-inch fence legally and put a hedge in, which your police don't want, but I could do it today, that would be a visual barrier. This is not. So that just completely contradicts common sense from anybody. The last sentence of the second paragraph of the comments on number 6.
Right.
The visual barrier not be harmonious with the residential neighborhood in which it is proposed. That, you have to admit, is subjective.
Well, it's saying that the visual barrier is not consistent with the front yard setback, so it's not
It
harmonious
doesn't say
with
that.
the neighborhood. But again, the next sentence after that says, should BZA find that it functions more like a rear yard, then that criteria can be met.
Functions like a rear yard, then it could be met. Is there anybody in the world that thinks this is going to function like a front yard?
Our ordinance does.
Is this ordinance being rewritten in the new land development code? Because this is ridiculous.
Yes, the whole land development code is being rewritten.
I know, but is this treating properties with 3 front yards being rewritten?
We are actually reviewing that section now. So yeah, there are modifications to that section.
That's in module 1.
That is module 2, I believe.
You know what section that's in module 2?
I believe it's the first article of module 2. I'm not sure the exact number of it, but I believe it's that one. I don't know off the top of my head.
And at the end of it, is it going to then allow properties that have 3 roads where one is a backyard not to be construed as a front yard?
I don't know. I don't know the exact language yet, but I think there is definitely room for improvement and room to come up with language that says if there is no plans to ever provide access to that road, then we could have some language in there that takes it out of the variance and gives staff the authority to make that call.
Well, let me ask you, you said you can have some language in there. Is there some language in there? Because tomorrow night, people are supposed to vote on it, aren't they?
Tomorrow night?
Or
No.
Thursday night? Isn't it Thursday night?
No, they're far from voting on it.
Oh, okay. But I mean, it just, once again, these responses are completely subjective determinations about harmonious and I mean, just ridiculous.
Number 2 there, it says fence requirements are consistently applied in residential districts throughout the city of Maitland and are being applied in the same uniform manner relative to this site. I mean, I think you could drive through down Pride off of Sandspur Road. There's Maitland Woods homes that back up onto Pride that have vinyl fences that are right there on the property lines. There's all kinds of places, I think.
Yeah, Maitland Grove with a wall behind every house along Sandspur. I mean, it's over and over and over going down that road. And throughout the whole city, this is all over the place. And the worst part about it is the police are who suggest that this is the right thing to do.
Well, there's definitely good arguments to take to the Board of Zoning Adjustment.
Okay, so why don't the 3 of y'all just punt and tell them that it should be in their discretion?
Because we have to make a recommendation to them. But they will and historically have gone against staff's recommendations in the past. It's not unheard of. So it's, you know, if you bring a good compelling case and let them know that that road is never going to be accessed and that it should function more like a rear yard, and come up with some concrete examples where it has been done in the same zoning districts. And
So some pictures you recommend, maybe of the site plan showing how the 35-foot setback would place the fence within the parking lot, some of those types of graphics to bring to
David,
the.
I think that's a waste of time because anybody with any common sense can see
Yeah,
that.
but
in
they
10
don't know your site, Barry, so I think it'd be good,
Well, I don't know who these people are, but if they're on a board in the city of Maitland, they should do their homework and go see every project that they're voting on.
okay, any other questions or comments?
None for me. We appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Kim, Will, any questions or comments for the applicant?
I do not.
Okay. Barry, I tried to email you and David all of those 6 comments, and David, it looked like yours kept getting kicked back, but Barry, you should have received them in your inbox, your email.
I'll look at them in a little bit.
Okay.
Disingenuous letters for people that previously said the opposite.
I
Okay.
did get 5 of them.
Oh, you did? Maybe it's Barry's that got kicked back. It shouldn't be. I kept getting some kickbacks on those. Okay, well, with that being said, then I will bring it back to the DRC for any discussion or recommendations. You both are on mute, so it's making it hard to make a recommendation.
Oh, got to get used to this. The typical recommendation for this is to accept the staff report or to move to send the staff report to the B&Z.
Yeah, so a typical motion would be that we forward this petition number, the 2020-03, to the BZA with a recommendation of denial or approval based on the evidence that they did or did not meet all 8 requirements set forth in the Section 7.5 of the Land Development Code.
Okay.
And the DRC recommendation report also had some conditions of approval should BZA approve the request. So if the motion is to deny this based on that report, then I think the motion should also have some language that if BZA does choose to approve the request, that it details their findings and that it approves it based on the recommendation, the conditions of approval outlined in the report, if that is what DRC so chooses.
Okay.
So is there any recommendation as either one of those?
I'll go ahead and move to, you may have to repeat it again for me though, Dan, to send the staff report through with, and basically the conditions are not met according to the staff review. So that would be a denial. And it with the special conditions if the B&Z were to approve it.
Okay, so motion that we forward this petition 2020-03 BZA to Board of Zoning Adjustment with the recommendation of denial. If I heard you right, the finding that they didn't meet all 8 requirements as outlined in the staff recommendation report. If they do decide to overturn staff, then your recommendation also includes that BZA, if they do approve the variance, that the conditions, the 4 conditions outlined in that report, be
Yes.
conditions of approval. Okay. So there's a motion. Is there a second? that yes, Will?
Second, yes.
Okay, second. All right, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All right, motion carries. So Barry, David, it will be on the next BZA meeting, which is,
When can I get a copy of the minutes that show Kim's motion? I want to make sure when I read it, it says the same thing that she did as opposed to something else.
okay, we will have the minutes prepared probably in the next couple days.
Can you send those to me?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's scheduled for the August 27th BZA meeting, which is at 4:30 p.m. It's also a Zoom meeting, so you will get, if you haven't already, you'll get an invitation, a Zoom invitation.
Thank you, folks.
Thank
At
you.
the end of this, if I don't get it, I'll just come back and put in a 30-inch fence and maybe we can put some glass or barbed wire on top of it.
Well, barbed wire is not allowed, but maybe some holly bushes or a cacti or something like that might work.
That's what the police do not want.
Barry, I honestly apologize. I accidentally hit the mute button on you. It was not on purpose. I'm trying to take you off here. Okay, there we go.
I don't believe you.
No, I swear, I swear. I didn't mean to. Go ahead and repeat that. You have the floor to
I
repeat
said,
it.
that's exactly what the police don't want. They want to be able to see through it.
All right, well, we will go ahead and move on to the next case then. And next case on the agenda, pull it back up here real quick.
David, how do we get out of this?
Tell you what, let me send you out. Well, David just left.
Have a good day, folks.
Thanks, you too. All right. So the next item on the agenda is petition number 2020-01 subdivision for 2100 Fennell Street. This is the final subdivision plat. Is there any questions from any DRC members?
No questions from me.
Do we have the applicants here?
We do not.
Okay.
You can be the applicant today.
I'm good. I'm good.
So then, so no questions, no comments?
I've got a couple of additional things that need to be noted.
Okay.
We need to have a way to bind the future successors of the company or their assigns to the agreements and easements.
Okay.
Another thing that we need to make sure that all easements and agreements will be recorded. And if it's recorded prior to recording of the plat, it needs to be referenced on the plat. And one more.
Okay.
All of our surveyor's comments need to be addressed prior to it moving forward to council. From their review.
Okay, and those were the comments that were outlined on 1 through 10?
No, we haven't seen the surveyor's comments.
Okay, I got you.
So
That's in addition to
that's
them.
why or we would have added them to the report.
So let me ask you about the bond. What format do you want that in?
What bond?
The bond for that, bonding the future successors and
Oh,
easement?
it's
Sorry.
yeah, it's not
Sorry.
it's not like a bond
Right,
like that, but we're trying to bind them. We're trying to make sure that there is a way that basically the company that's there now, it needs to transfer to the next owner or company. If they change, you know, how if they sell or they change their name, we have to make sure that the agreements that we have will transfer to the next responsible party.
Okay, and you typically do that through a separate document that's recorded in a,
Hold on. It should be called out in the agreement. Because there's still, you know, we still have some outstanding agreements that have not been signed yet. So
okay,
we just want to make sure. Okay, so.
okay. So basically you want all the easements.
Does that make sense? Or
Yeah, so you want the.
just need to make sure that the future successors of the responsible party in the agreements, that there is a way that it will transfer to their successor and should be worked out in our agreements. We're working with the attorney on it, on what's required.
Okay.
I'm just saying it needs to be, that's a condition of approval.
Gotcha. All right. Will, you have any questions or comments?
I do not, sir.
Okay, so with that, then I will entertain a motion that we approve petition 2020-01 for 2100 Fennell Street, subject to the condition outlined in the August 19th DRC recommendation report, including the 11 revisions, with the additional conditions that all easements shall be recorded in Orange County. And if they're recorded prior to the plat, then the easement shall show up on the plat. Also, that all surveyor comments shall be addressed prior to council action on this item. And an additional condition sounds like that future successors shall be bonded to the agreements and easements as part of this, and it shall run with the land. Does that sound about capturing it?
Bound, not bonded.
Bound, that's sorry.
Yeah.
Read my
And
handwriting.
did you say the recording, did you include agreements? Because there's a maintenance agreement that needs to be recorded.
Okay, so all easements and agreements shall be recorded
Yes.
and
Yeah.
listed on the plat of done. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, and all of this with the fact that that DRC is finding that it's consistent with section 7593 of the Land Development Code. Is there a motion to that extent? Do we need to reread it or try to recraft it?
Will, I think it's your turn.
I would just say so moved.
Okay. So there's a motion. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Okay. Does anybody need any clarification before we vote on it on what the actual motion is? Okay. Hearing none, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Next item is other business. I have no other business to report or anything from either one of you two.
Nope.
No. All right. Well, then we are adjourned at 2:43. Thank you so much.
Right. Thanks.
All right. Bye.
Bye.